Hi there, my name is John Carter. I am a portfolio lead in the Home Office and I've been asked to answer a few questions about my route into the project profession, some of my experiences and any advice I would give. I've got a set of questions here to go through. My routine, what subjects did I take at school? I've always been kind of very much focused on sort of mathematics and sort of sciences. So I took maths, physics, and chemistry at A level. And I think that kind of carries forward into my working life. So I'm very much kind of focused on statistics, MI, the kind of objective evidence, I suppose, in terms of how project management is, my style of kind of running projects and how I go about doing that. What degree did I do? So I studied mathematics at Durham University. So I did a Bachelor's of Science at Durham University in Mathematics, which I have to say is probably, in retrospect, it's probably not a course I would choose to do again. But in terms of kind of the experience and the kind of friends I made through that, then very much something I was glad to have done. And how did I get into projects? Having graduated from university, then I actually got a job with the local passport office, kind of processing passport applications. So I kind of started as a, an office dog's body, essentially, kind of, doing, wheeling trolleys of files around and kind of making cups of tea. Then one thing led to another. There was a promotion opportunity available for kind of examining passports. So I kind of took that, and then a couple of years later, an opportunity came up working in the something called the Interview Office Network, which was to do with examining kind of first-time passport applicants, kind of calling people in for interviews to kind of combat identity fraud. And as part of that work, I got to meet the project delivery team who were kind of delivering the project, and got asked to kind of help them out with a few things. And that was kind of my exposure to kind of projects. And I think once I'd seen that part of the business and that part of the world, there was no going back then. I was kind of very much focused on, this is what I want to do, and that's where I wanted to kind of take my career. So that was back in 2007. So kind of, kind of showing my age now, but that was, 13 years ago, kind of when I first started getting involved in projects. Okay, my project experience. What kind of projects you've been involved with? As I mentioned, there was the Interview Office network for the Passport Office was my kind of first introduction to projects. That then led on to kind of a number of others. I think one of the interesting things about kind of being in project management is that projects have a finite life cycle. So you're kind of constantly moving forwards. There's always a kind of whatever you're working on. It has a natural life cycle. It will come to an end, and then you look for something else and do something else. So that kind of constant change is something that definitely appealed to me when I kind of first joined. Once that came to an end, I then kind of worked on some other things. So I've been involved in projects to do with the delivery of ID cards, the biometric system for visa and immigration applicants, so for visas and asylum. The Emergency Services Mobile Communications Programme, so that's a very large IT programme in the Home Office, so one of the top 10 programmes in government in terms of scale. I've also more recently been involved in some kind of policy related work as well. Windrush reform. I was on the team that was kind of dealing with the kind of the after effects of Windrush when that happened. EU exit. So I was leading on planning for kind of Home Office on the EU exit work when we were doing that. And more recently, I'm kind of my most current role. I'm part of the coronavirus response hub in one of the departments within Home Office. And again, I think so cover broadly. I mean, IT, lots of different types of projects I'm involved with, kind of thing. So all with the Home Office, but kind of that's covered IT projects, business change, policy, all sorts. What makes a good project professional? So I was thinking about this. So I think there's kind of, I think when I first started, I would have said, I would have thought about this very much in a kind of a project manager sort of way, which is that actually, well, that's you kind of being kind of focused on delivery, driving things forward. But actually, I think now reflecting, there's such a wide range of roles available in the profession that actually you can't necessarily say that for everyone, kind of thing. I think it's good that there, kind of a good project team, I think, is made up of a mixture of different kind of types of personalities. So you need those people that are kind of wanting to drive and push things forwards. Likewise, you need people who are kind of slightly more cautious, want to kind of check things over, just make sure everything's right before moving on. So kind of having that kind of balance of different styles kind of really makes for a really good project team, I think. So that's not necessarily kind of but I think there's some fundamentals which underpin this, which are probably the so the APM code of conduct, so kind of just and kind of the 5 dimensions of professionalism which they talk about. So kind of those sorts of things into kind of the responsibilities to yourself, to the profession, to your organisation in terms of how you conduct yourself, but also kind of think about the dimensions of professionalism, kind of thing. So having that kind of that breadth of knowledge in terms of covering a kind of being able to kind of cover a wide remit of kind of what makes up the project profession, having depth in specific areas, so kind of like really knowing some subjects kind of like the back of your hand. Also kind of the achievements that you've kind of made, and kind of that bringing that kind of sense of achievement when things have gone well. Your commitment to the work, to actually kind of making a success of things, and also kind of taking accountability, so whether that is good or bad kind of thing. So taking accountability when things go well, but even more importantly kind of taking accountability when things haven't gone so well. And again, I think but I do think one common thing I would say is the kind of like there's a mindset of a kind of almost an optimistic realist, which is kind of underpins a lot of kind of roles in kind of project management, which is that kind of sense that we can do things better. There is we can always look to kind of improve the way we're doing things, and kind of find those opportunities to do so, kind of thing. So kind of constantly being kind of feeling like the job's never fully done, there's always more to be doing, and kind of more ways where we can kind of improve things. So I think that's important. What have been the biggest challenges and highlights of my project career? So in terms of challenges, I've certainly worked on some kind of challenging kind of projects. I think kind of some of the work that I was doing on ID cards, and then ID cards were cancelled with a change of government, and that then was no longer a priority for the new government. So kind of that was a challenging time for me personally, I think, in terms of working on something that's something that you've kind of invested a lot of time and effort into, and then due to elements out of your control, it's you're then kind of that's no longer something you're doing anymore. And then certainly again, like some of the work I've been involved with, so like I say, Windrush reform, EU exit, coronavirus response, lots of kind of very high profile work, which kind of where there's kind of a lot of working with a lot of ambiguity, or kind of in situations that are evolving rapidly, trying to get kind of understand and put some controls around those sorts of environments. Kind of very challenging, but also kind of very rewarding as well. Highlights. So I think I mean, so many, just to pick out a couple, I suppose. So kind of one of the projects that I worked on won a award at the kind of Management Consultancy Association Awards. So that's always nice to have that kind of formal recognition via awards. But I think any time that actually something that you've worked on, you have a go live, you have a release, whatever it is, and kind of kind of something that you've kind of invested your time and effort into, is then kind of delivered into a kind of to users, and they get a chance to kind of use it, and you get that kind of positive feedback. There's several occasions of that I can kind of think back to, where the kind of those are the bits that you kind of like really remember, along with the kind of the kind of the good team members, and the kind of the people that you worked with that kind of helped you along the way. So those are the things that the positive things I think that really stick in the memory. And then of course it would be remiss of me not to mention, of course, getting my chartered status through APM as well was a particular career highlight as well, because I feel that kind of really brought together all of my kind of my experience and qualifications into one kind of package kind of thing. So kind of being able to kind of achieve that chartered status, and being able to kind of use my kind of post nominal, that's something I'm kind of very proud of. What's been my favourite project and why? I think I'd have to pick out the Emergency Services Mobile Communications Programme, in which is a programme which is still going on today, but I worked on that for 5 years, and again it's probably something that I worked on longer than I ever thought I would do, but the people and the team that I was working with were so good, and I got on so well with them that it was it was a pleasure to come in and work alongside them basically. So, and again, speaking to others, that seems to be a common thing in terms of actually when people look back and think about their best experiences in kind of project delivery, it's almost always to do with the people they were working with and the the personal experiences kind of thing. It's great to have those achievements in terms of what was delivered at the end and and what benefits might have been realised, but it's really the people that make it and the people that that you remember when you think back on these things. Right, advice. So any advice I would give, what good do projects do and how can projects help our world? So I think for thinking about this as someone who's worked in the Home Office for 15 years, and like I say, I'm in projects in Home Office for 13 years, then a lot of what we do, it's all about make it, and this goes across the public sector, it's all about making best use of public money and ensuring that we are being as efficient as possible, not wasting anything. So that's that's for me, like a key. That's the key thing that projects do in my environment thing, and being able to see, like I say, the positive changes that projects deliver thing. So being able to deliver something new which has a real benefit, where you've got users who are crying out for a new type of product or service, and being able to deliver that and then see it utilised and people to get the benefit out of it. It's a very rewarding feeling, I think. And yeah, continuing to do that again. I think we are in an ever changing world, and so I think that project management I see as being fundamental to how we successfully deliver new things into the rapidly changing world successfully thing. So I think they have a huge role to play in the future. But what does the future hold for the project profession? So I suppose I think I see the profession as continuing to evolve. I think it's still a relatively young profession compared to some of the other the others that are more established. So thinking of other professions that you would be other chartered professions such as engineering, accountancy, things like that. Those are the things that have existed for much longer, I think, than project management or project delivery as a profession. So I think that is I see the profession continuing to evolve, given its relative youth. I see something that I've noticed over the past 15 years or so is the diversification and specialisation of particular roles. So I think I see that probably continuing. I think there's more and more niche subjects that and skill sets that need to be filled in projects and programs. I've seen in my time, I think a lot more you're seeing projects and programs integrating together and needing to integrate together more thing, be that on a a technical or a as an operational business level. So I think that is something the complexities that brings in terms of integrating things together, and also the the continued and increasing role that IT plays in all aspects of our lives thing. I can see as being two big elements that will steer projects and the profession going forwards. And finally, what's my top tips for someone thinking about a career in projects? What would I tell my 16-year-old self about projects? So I think taking that second question, what would I tell my 16-year-old self? I would just tell my 16-year-old self that they exist, basically. Because I think when I kind of, back in school, it's just something that I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even know this was a career, or it was a kind of something that you could do. It was only through kind of finding out accidentally through circumstance at work. I think that kind of I kind of stumbled across the profession. But I think once I discovered it and kind of worked out, wow, this is what you could do for, this is a job, then that was it. Then, that's what I wanted to do. What tips for someone who think about going for a career in projects? I think again, just go for it, basically, kind of thing. So I think the demand for qualified and experienced kind of people in this space is only going to go up. In the future. There's always a high demand for kind of project professionals in home office and public sector generally. It brings a lot of transferable skills, so there's an awful lot of stuff that you can bring. And again, I think even if you don't end up ultimately in a kind of career in project delivery, then you are inevitably going to be working alongside project professionals in the future as part of whatever you're doing. Kind of, it's almost inevitable. So, kind of being able to kind of relate to and understand kind of what they are doing and kind of how the profession works, then is going to be of benefit to everyone, I feel. So, okay, that's everything.